First, I'd like to give all honor and praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, and double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And a shout out to the Akim out there that's also pushing this truth. And so we're going out to the four quarters of the earth, which is how we've been scattered abroad and tearing down strongholds such as stretched Christianity and all other false doctrines taught by Esau, the so-called white man, who is the devil in the Bible. So, you know, we come out here every week to push this truth. And Esau doesn't like the fact that we're tearing down the stronghold, which has been Christianity, which has been a lie. You know, it teaches you that everyone could be saved, and that's not true. You know, you have to be born of the Israelite bloodline. You know, that's why the scriptures often say the Holy One of Israel, and that's Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. But the letter J was never even in the Bible because they spoke in Hebrew. They didn't speak in these other languages. And the English equivalent of Yahweh Shai would be Joshua. But that's not the name that they use. No, they use Zeus, which is what Jesus means Hail Zeus. So it's another god entirely, which is stretched Christianity is molding all the religions together, which makes up the Roman Catholicism. So we've been taught everything wrong, you know. And Satan, quite simply put, made adversary. So Satan has been pretty much the so-called white man. That's been the accuser of the brethren, you know. Every time you try to get into his churches or whatever, you know, and then you start asking questions and all that, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God, you know, and all these other things, but yet you're asking questions as it pertains to the Bible, and the things that they're teaching is not even pertaining to the Bible. They're adding in their own doctrines, such as Satan being kicked out of heaven, you know, which we're tearing down that stronghold as well. Because, you know, how art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning, is really talking about Esau and his power structure, you know, which is now the UN, NATO, and, you know, the League of Nations, now known as the UN, you know, pretty much is how he's going to be fallen from this kingdom. And it's going to be taken out of power very soon here. When Yahweh Shai returns in this place, America, Babylon the Great, is destroyed by nuclear fire. First, the nations are going to fight themselves, and then eventually the Most High is going to return on the mothership and all the motherships. So I'm going to read out of Habakkuk, and we'll start in chapter 3. A prayer of Habakkuk, the prophet upon Shigarath. O Lord, I have heard thy speech, and was afraid. O Lord, revive thy work in the midst of the years, in the midst of the years known. Make known in wrath, remember mercy. Yahweh came from Teman, and the Holy One from Mount Paran. Selah, his glory, covered the heavens, and the earth was full of praise. So, this place, Teman, is another code word for America, Babylon, if you will, because the Most High himself is speaking through the prophets. You know, the men that are coming out here and teaching the truth, you know, and tearing down the strongholds such as stretched Christianity and all the other falsehoods of Esau, the so-called white man. And his brightness was as the light. He had horns coming out of his hand, and there was the hiding of his power. Before him went the pestilence, and burning coals went forth at his feet. He stood and measured the earth. He beheld and drove asunder the nations, and the everlasting mountains were scattered. The perpetual hills did bow. His ways are everlasting. Again, all these nations are going to bow down to Yahweh Shai, the Son of the Most High. I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction, and the curtains of the land of Midian did tremble. Was the Lord displeased against the rivers? Was thine anger against the rivers? Was thy wrath against the sea? That thou didst ride upon thy horses and thy chariots of salvation. Again, you know, this is when he destroys Babylon the Great, and, you know, what was this vengeance for? Was it really against the earth itself and all these things? No. It was against Esau, the so-called white man, and his power structure, because he showed no mercy when he took this land, which was actually You could pretty much call it the land of Yashala, of Israel, because that's where we were scattered to when we had left to keep the commandments, that is, the northern tribes. Thy bow was made quite naked, according to thy oaths of thy tribes, even thy word Selah, thou didst cleave the earth with rivers. The mountains saw thee, and they trembled. The overflowing of the water passed by. The deep uttered his voice, and lifted up his hands on high. The sun and the moon stood still in their habitation. At the light of thine arrows they went, and at the shining of thy glittering spear. Again, this is going to be a big day when America, Babylon the Great, is destroyed. You know, they're going to see these glimmering spears. They're going to see these nuclear missiles bringing down this place. And they're going to know that the Most High reigneth forever, because He is the one that's going to bring down this place. Thou went forth for the salvation of thy people. And it's Yashala, Israel, that's going to receive the salvation, going to receive this mercy. He's going to destroy 2/3 of it, but He's going to save 1/3, and they're going to see thy mercies upon that 1/3. And the rest of the nation of Israel are going to be birthed through that 1/3. Thou wentest forth from the salvation of thy people, even for salvation with thine anointed, which is talking about the elect, the 1/3. The ones that are coming out here and pushing this truth, telling people to repent and come back to the Most High, so we can get up out of here, you know. So thy will can be done on earth as it is in heaven, meaning that His glory shall bright. Thou didst strike through with the staves of the head of his villages. They came out as a whirlwind to scatter me. Their rejoicing was as to devour the poor secretly. And that's what we are now, poor. You know, we're poor in the essence that, yeah, we don't have a lot of riches, but our riches are about to be that in the kingdom that's about to come. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, which is talking about when Israel is brought back to salvation, you know, shall be as a shining light among all the nations. So that's what we're out here proclaiming on the streets, you know. And so-called white man, Esau, he sees all this, and he knows that his stronghold, Christianity, is no longer, you know, true. That it's that what he thought was true finds out that it's a lie, and he can't stand the fact that you know, these blessings are only for the nation of Israel. And so he's going to do everything he can, you know, going to send agents, you know, provocateurs up here, you know, to try to make us look like we're the black Hebrew Israelites. But how do you explain confusion of faces like myself, or Latinos and Native Americans who are also teaching this truth? How do you explain that one if we're just so-called black Hebrew Israelites? No, but they want to, you know, compare us to Antifa and all these other groups which they create out of chaos, you know, which is why ISUPK, who are sellouts, you know, show themselves with weapons and all that to try to list us as a terrorist group, you know, which we know Esau is the terrorist, because he's the one that is sending all these armed groups to go in and take down the government of Syria. It is Esau, the so-called white man, who is the devil, who is deceiving the whole world with all these proxy armies, which are all proxy armies of the United States, Babylon the Great. And these nations are sick of it, and they want to see America destroyed once and for all, because they're tired of America ruling over them. You know, America will never leave Afghanistan. America will never leave Iraq. America will never leave Libya, you know, but rather is going to keep on enslaving them, forcing their policies upon them. And that's what they're trying to do in Syria now. They're trying to move in, you know, create a Kurdish state so that way they could govern Syria. Well, if they can't take out Assad, they could at least have this governing area known as the Kurdistan area, so they could eventually go after Assad and bring down Bashar al-Assad, which is why they created the ISIS group to begin with, which is really Al-Qaeda, which is really Al-Nusra, which is really the Daesh terrorists. You can see John McCain with all these groups. All they do is they change the flag for whatever false flag narrative they want to put out there. And so we still have the same amongst these other Israelite camps, and whatever false flag narrative they want to do to try to link us to Antifa or to any of these other groups that they created themselves. Black Lives Matter, you know, all these other groups they want to compare us to, because of course this thing is tearing down the stronghold of Christianity. You know, that Christianity is a lie. You know, that Jesus, you know, who they call Jesus, really ain't there to save the entire world, but yet it's only there to save the elect of his people, Yasha'Allah, Israel. That really has everything to do with the 12 tribes of Israel, and that's what we're bringing out here on the streets, and Esau can't stand it, because more and more people are turning away from...
Right now. I hear that shit.
You're a goddamn Edomite. Well, you heard it yourself, you know. Esau did not want to hear this because it was good news for us, but bad news for them. You know, that this one that they call Jesus Christ is a so-called black man, having hair white like wool and feet like undefined brass as if burned through a furnace. You know, that he was a dark-skinned man, you know, and that he's really come to take over, you know, that he's going to destroy this place, Babylon the Great America, and that he's going to destroy the Edomites ultimately, you know, and going to enslave them. And it wasn't very good news for the Edomites, so he's like, I don't want to hear that shit, you know. But the truth is going to come out, and he's going to see it in that day when this place, America, Babylon the Great, is destroyed. This truth is going to come out anyways, because stretched Christianity has been exposed as the lie that it is. You know, that's good news for us, but bad news for them. You know, that we're not a minority anymore. You know, that the nation of Israel is everywhere, you know, because if you're understanding this and you're getting all this, then you're an Israelite. And, you know, we're tearing down the strongholds of Esau, which has been stretched Christianity, which has kept our people in bondage. You know, because the whole reason for the image of Cesare Borgia was so you would worship the so-called white man, thinking that he was a white man, a Caucasian, you know. And the Caucasian man, it's just not very good news for them, you know. I don't claim to be Caucasian. I'm an Israelite. I just happen to be a confusion of face that might look like the other nations, you know. But I have this truth. I receive this truth, you know. If you can receive it, if you can understand it, if you can break down scriptures, or you can understand it when they're broken down, then you're an Israelite, you know. And again, you know, you're a one-man camp like I am and all that. Yeah, that's stuff like that's going to happen. But, you know, you can't fight them, you know, and you can't physically get into too much of an engagement with them, or they'll call the cops on you. And you get shut down. And if you're the only one in that camp, you know, the whole thing gets shut down. So, no, I wasn't going to continue to argue. I was going to say what I had to say and, you know, change location, you know, because sometimes that's what you have to do. We were scattered abroad for not keeping the commandments, but now that we're keeping them and all that, Esau doesn't like the fact that his stronghold, you know, these chains upon our necks are now starting to be put on his, you know, that he's going to be bound up, you know. Pretty much, though, Esau doesn't want this truth to come out there, so, you know, they're going to try to label us the black Hebrew Israelites. But, you know, when you see confusion of faces like myself and all that, tears down that stronghold of Esau. But he's going to, again, try to make us look like we're all these other groups, you know. Just like he has all those people disguised as ISIS, as Al-Qaeda, you know, to try to fool everyone into thinking that there's these terrorist groups, which Esau runs them anyways. So, you know, pretty much we're tearing down that illusion, you know. And so Esau can't stand that, you know. And that's what's happening, you know. So, anyhow, you know, like everything else, though, we're just going to keep on pushing this word out here. So I want to give all praise to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushai, double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, who are teaching this truth and sincerity. And shalom to the Akim, who's also out here pushing this truth, risking their lives to do so. Shalom.